So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the good, the bad, and the Kino. This week we'll be talking about Tropic Thunder.
Ryan, who's this
for
person
those-
talking? I don't know this person.
This is our friend Shoh
hijacked our
from high
Zoom
school.
call?
Unfortunately, this little short man that we have on the other end, but we're more than happy to have him. Shoh is, one of my longtime friends since high school. Most and I knew him very well. Shoh and I were in film class together, graduated together. We were in the trenches together through IB film. We really went through it, and we've been friends ever since. And we constantly talk about film. So I really can't think of someone better to be on the podcast first time around as a guest than Shoh. So you're welcome, Shoh. And I first met Shoh back in 2016 when
15,
I moved to Amsterdam,
15,
and I remember
15,
15. That's
yeah.
right.
You
5
moved in
years ago.
2015. We moved to Amsterdam the same year.
2015, the same year, right, Moses? And we had this like little school trip to like everyone get acquainted at the beginning of the year, and like we all go out like sailing as a group. And one of Shoh's and mine's mutual friend, Soham, was on my boat, and I met Shoh through that. First time I saw Shoh, he's wearing a Blues Brothers shirt. And in my head, I was like, I love that film. I don't know anyone else who likes that film. So the first words I ever said to Shoh, I went up to him like, "You like the Blues Brothers, huh?" "Me too."
That is not what you said. That is
it was something similar
You
to
came
that.
up to me, you were like, "You seen the movie? Or you just like the shirt?" No, it was like, "I like the movie. Have you seen the second one?" And you were like, "No, it's garbage." And then from there, it's just Blues Brothers talk.
That is,
Yeah.
Ryan, you're one of those people. You're like one of those people who's like, "Oh, you're wearing a T-shirt of that band. Name me 3 songs, or you're not a real fan."
I was still developing my social skills at the time, okay? I
That
didn't
is
really know what to
Developing
do
my
in that
social
scenario.
skills. I was factory new back then.
Factory new.
I think I met Shoh really for the first. I think I properly got to meet Shoh the first time when we were both working on our school's production of Into the Woods. I don't think I really knew you before then. You were. I don't know who you played. I can't remember who you played in it.
I remember who you
I
played
was
well.
the
I've
old
got photos
man.
of it.
I remember your costume. I remember your costume. I don't remember the role. And
Yeah,
I was like I was a grip. For the entire first act, it was my job to pull up the beanstalk, and so I had to sit with Gwen from your school year. I had to sit in the railing for the whole first act and pull up the beanstalk at one point and just wait because I couldn't come down because it would shake the whole thing.
Theater productions.
It was also super painful because I had scoliosis and it was developing, and me just sitting there, it was such a pain. And I didn't say it was a nightmare, that production for the grips, because it was just like clashing heads. It was super ambitious. Because
from what I heard, it was a nightmare all around.
It was.
It was the last production of our drama teacher before she left, and so she made it extra big. And so it was super ambitious. It only
I remember
came
the
together at
premiering
the
night.
last
People were talking about how she was like screaming at people and like yelling and stuff behind the scenes, and like
who was she yelling
got really
at?
Aggressive.
Who was she yelling at? Who do you think? She
I
wasn't
know-
yelling
I
at the
know- I remember-
actors.
True. It was like her own apocalypse now. It was because she was like directing it, but also orchestrating the music. She was doing both at the same time, and like she couldn't handle everything, so she was
it was
slowly breaking apart. But it was okay.
So
People
funny.
laughed.
no.
We certainly did, Show.
We
For the right
certainly had
or
a
the
good
wrong
laugh.
reasons.
It was before I even really met Ryan, and I remember because Ryan's ex-girlfriend was part of that production, and Ryan would wait outside at the end of rehearsals, and I'd just be like, "Who's this tall, scary guy?" Because I didn't know
Scary?
you seemed intimidating. You seemed intimidating.
I don't know why people think
you're
that. I've heard that
intimidating.
before, but I don't think
I don't know why.
Show why he would find me intimidating, but I think it's a bit different
Big,
for you. You're
scary American.
But like Moses and I are both American, both tall, but like I don't know. I didn't think I was that scary at the time.
You were mortifying, Ryan.
I was
Looming
the
over
menace.
everything.
Ryan, you're
I was the
horrific to
menace of
look at.
ISA.
Yeah.
Guys, I like my new haircut. Don't make fun of it. It's nice.
I also got a buzz cut shortly before he did. Now it's going back, so I have to hide it.
Don't say same.
Nah, it just grew back really quickly. It's an illusion. Yeah, under all this is a buzz cut. Yeah.
It's a wig.
It's a wig.
All right. Movies. Let's get back to the movies.
Yeah, we're talking about Tropic Thunder.
Lead us in with our first conversational topic before we get to Tropic Thunder.
Oh, okay. Well, a little sneak peek. The Collateral versus Heat.
Yeah.
That debate, because on my stance, I personally think that Heat is better than Collateral is better than Heat. Yeah, they're both Michael Mann films. Collateral came out a bit later. Tom Cruise as a hitman, Jamie Foxx as the cab driver, and it all happens in one night. And I thought that made it better than Heat. Okay, no, that's not my one thing, but that's just kind of something I really like.
When I watched Collateral, I found it to be surprisingly stupid from a script perspective. It was like very bare bones. The direction from Michael Mann was great, but the screenplay left a little bit to be desired. That was my takeaway from when I watched it.
Okay.
See, Shoh and I are massive, and I cannot understate this enough. Massive Tom Cruise fans. Shoh's the only other person I know that would like take a bullet for that man. And like
take a bullet for a Scientologist. I don't think he can be.
Whoa!
I don't think
I'm not defining him as a Scientologist. I'm defining him as a hardworking actor.
I'm not. I'm defining him as a Scientologist.
I don't, because of his religion, I don't think bullets can penetrate him anyway. I think he's impervious to bullets. So you don't have to jump in front of him to save him.
Not taking that risk. Not taking that risk.
No, and then he can revive you then with the magic of Kino.
Yeah. And then I'll be Tom Cruise's power runs through me.
I wrote a big essay in high school that was like for the IB about Scientology and the whole Xenu aspect of that religion. It was for Nature of Science.
Oh my God. Really?
I got a really good grade too.
You should have taken that class. What a mistake.
I got like a 6 out of 7 on that essay.
Oh my God.
It was my IA. It was my IA.
Oh, my IAs in both science and math were like, let's not talk about that. Let's not bring back the trauma. But yeah, I think that Tom Cruise is definitely the best part of Collateral. It's just like Collateral's a great thriller and it's super entertaining, but to me it just doesn't have the depth that Heat does. Like the character development and the way that like the characters are mirrored in that film, and like that film feels so epic, but also like really tightly knit together. Despite there's like so many different storylines in Heat, they still all come together really nicely. It's well balanced and paced, and like the shootout like is so realistic. The realism of that like scene after the bank is like so good. I mean, for anyone who hasn't listened to our Heat podcast, like definitly go back. Moses and I really go in on that film, but I really enjoy Collateral, and I should go back and watch it. But like, I don't know. I think beyond like Tom Cruise being an amazing villain, there's just not as much there as there is in Heat.
Like, okay, I definitely agree with you on that, because Heat is definitely like a more packed film. There's like so much more is going on in Heat, and it's all put together really nicely. But what I think I really like about Collateral is how disconnected both the characters feel from like the environment around them. Like all these things are going on. They're going to different clubs, and at the whole time, the story is essentially just about Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise. And like that quality for me feels like really well crafted, and it almost like epitomizes in that scene where Jamie Foxx just like is at a red light and just sees like a coyote running across the street.
That's a great bit.
Yeah, like there's a very dreamlike quality to it all that I like.
Collateral loses some points for me because Tom Cruise has a weird facial hair. The color is off. His hair is pepper. I don't. It's not his real hair color, and it bugs me.
No.
my number one criticism.
Too much.
No, it made him look like a silver fox almost to me. Yeah. Like it was a very different look, but I thought it worked as a villain.
It was Daddy Tom Cruise instead of hero Tom Cruise.
Daddy.
Just what I need.
That's why Collateral is a good film at all. Daddy Tom Cruise is Daddy Tom Cruise, everything I ever need in life.
But also, like, because he's, like, a villain, you never, like, you know he's a villain, but, like, the way he acts in the film, not every scene he feels like he's being a villain, if that almost makes sense. Like, he's Jamie Foxx's antagonist, but he's also got, like, his own things going on. And when he dies at the end, it's not, like, a great victory for the hero. It's almost, like, it's sad, because he's dying. It's like, do you think anyone will notice? And there's that callback to earlier when they're talking about that.
The ending is great.
I really should rewatch it, I guess, then.
I should, too.
I don't know, Heat is just, that's just one of my favorite films when I first saw it.
Heat.
Yeah, rewatching Collateral will be on my list for this week for sure.
When I get back to London eventually, Ryan and we need to sit down and watch Heat with the director's commentary.
Yes, that would be great.
That's gonna be sick.
That would be so good.
I hear the commentary for Tropic Thunder Transition is fantastic as well.
I need to watch it.
But
I should actually. I watched it on Amazon, so like every now and again, the trivia pops up on Amazon Prime. And like they mentioned certain things that they mentioned in the director's commentary, which like when we get to like a very iconic scene later, I'll bring that up.
By the way,
like, it's really interesting.
Did you guys watch the director's cut or unrated cut of Tropic Thunder or the theatrical?
No, I've seen both. I watched the theatrical.
I watched the theatrical.
I watched the director's cut, the one that's like 2 hours long.
Yeah, that's too bad.
I think I've only seen the director's cut.
So I'm not much longer. It's like 13 minutes longer.
It's like exactly 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not that much. Like I think there's like a scene in it after the big meeting with Les Grossman for the first time, and he's like, "You got to get your shit together." The directors there's like a big party scene, and the director's like trying to get all the actors together, but just no one is listening.
Oh yeah, that's not in it. Yeah,
that isn't in the theatrical cut. But I noticed that because there's a clip of it in the credits when they have snippets of the film in the credits.
Yes, I did notice that.
And I was like, what's this scene from?
Jack Black's on like this stripper pole kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did notice that as well.
That's true. Yeah, that's not even in the like movie though. That's just something they put in there then.
Oh, okay. Maybe they had just extra footage then.
But it's like, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
All right, well then let's jump into Tropic Thunder then.
Oh, wait, before we drop in, I didn't even know this was a thing. So apparently when you have a 3-person call on Zoom, you can only have 40 minutes. But I just got a message saying, running out of time, we've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meeting.
Oh,
Thank you, Zoom.
Thank God, Zoom.
Thank you.
I didn't know that either.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to the Zoom gods.
Let's cram this conversation in 40 minutes.
Okay, let's do it.
To be honest, I speak that fast sometimes anyways, so
there's
not much difference.
You do.
Just put
if I get really excited, I can't help it. Yeah. All right, well, Shoh, lead us off. Start.
Okay. What is there? Okay, I guess like the thing I like so much about this movie, like other than the jokes and like the whole thing is a callback to Vietnam War films. I think like the underlying thing is that it's almost like about the excesses of masculinity in Hollywood. I think that's like my thesis for the film, because throughout there are only like 3 females in the movie that have any speaking roles, and that's like Tyra Banks, the excess Hollywood lady, and then like Matthew McConaughey's assistant. That's it.
True. I never realized that.
I realized that when watching it yesterday. I was like, "There's like no women in this movie."
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
So
there's no love interest angle or anything. There's like no.
Thank God.
Yeah. Like for me, that kind of almost makes it like purposefully like a really dude kind of movie, because they're all like big men who think they're the shit. They're like big and rich and famous, but like deep down they're all like very empty and very insecure.
You could say Tropic Thunder's about toxic masculinity, and
you could though. Like I think
I totally see that,
especially with the elements of that. What's his name? The Al Pacino. What's his
Al
name?
Pacino,
Brandon C. Jackson. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah. That character.
Just talk about that briefly. Just talked about that briefly for a minute. Like the opening of the film I actually think is so brilliant. And when I was a kid and I saw it for the first time, I was so confused. but as you watch it when you get older, it's so brilliant because one, it sets up that like you see commercials for the reality of the world setting up before the actual film begins. So then you're watching the film and it feels that much more real. But also you're seeing these characters. Like you're seeing them through like the entertainment prism. You're not seeing as they are, but it sets them up for what their insecurities will be down the line and what they'll be exploring.
Yeah,
and I think that's really,
true.
really smart. Because like, of course, Robert Downey Jr., his whole character thing is making fun of method actors. And Jack Black's whole thing is like making fun of Hollywood's drug problem and how that like sends them down like to a terrible career path. And then Ben Stiller's is like, the franchise overload, running it into the ground, ending your career. And like, the Al Pacino thing is
Who would that be?
What's it called? What's the it's like marketing. What is it called in film? A product placement.
Yeah,
product placement kind of thing. And I think that was just so smart, and it's really funny. And like the stuff with like Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire like playing with like the religious beads is so funny.
I have to say, I have a couple things to say about the intro. I'm first of all shocked that they were allowed to do that for legal reasons. So they played that before the film's like opening credits and the logos of the production companies. I didn't know legally they could do that. I don't know if they had to go around unions to do it, because I would imagine you're not really allowed to do that, but they did it anyway. Also, the trailer for Satan's Alley, which you just talked about, really made me think of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was one of my favorite movies from last year.
It made me think of Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah, no, it's Call Me By Your Name and Portrait of a Lady. It's even more Portrait of a Lady on Fire because of the temporal setting. But it's like, it's also like, the Portrait of a Lady on Fire, it's a lot of like glances, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to open. And even I think the funniest part of that intro for me is Ben Stiller's, because it's not him, it's the narration. It's like, and he came back again. 3 more times. And then when it wasn't hot anymore, it got cold or something like that. And it's
who left
like
the fridge open?
Yeah, it's so good. So well written as well.
Yeah.
And like the amazing thing is with this film is like, it's kind of, to me, the film's like a lightning in a bottle scenario, because I think Ben Stiller is a very talented comedian. He has hits and misses, but he's talented. Justin Theroux as a writer, he's a great actor. As a writer, very missed. Ethan Cohen, not Ethan Cohen, very missed as a director, as a writer when it comes to writing comedies. So it's kind of amazing that like 2 out of the 3 writers who, when they write comedies, the comedies aren't good, they turned this out, and that's how good it was.
Didn't Ethan Cohen, the one you just mentioned, didn't he make
he wrote
the Garfield movie?
I don't know, but I know 3 credit writings of his, which is the new Dumbo film from last year, which sucked. Transformers: Age of Extinction, and then Get Hard, that Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart film. Which
he also wrote Holmes and Watson,
films.
which is like terrible.
Another awful film. That's what I mean. It's like, it's amazing that like someone who's got such a terrible track record helped write like one of the best comedies of the last 20 years in my opinion. Okay. So like,
true.
Sorry, my bad. It wasn't written. Garfield wasn't written by Ethan Cohen. It was written by Joel Cohen. But it's not the Joel Cohen you're thinking of.
Right.
Not of the Cohen.
I remember. But no, do you know that story that Bill Murray signed on because he did think it was Joel Cohen of the Coen brothers? Yeah.
Because Bill Murray doesn't have an agent.
Funny.
He just gets he has a public number that people can call. And he picks whatever. He doesn't have an agent.
So funny.
And so he was like, Garfield by the Coen brothers, sign me up. But it was the wrong Coen.
Now, as a massive Tropic Thunder fan, Shoh, do you know how Ben Stiller actually came up with the idea for the film?
Yes, I was reading that up on the Wikipedia today.
How?
So he was
really
in Empire of the Sun. Do you know that movie, Moses?
I've seen it. I forgot he's in it. I've seen it.
Yeah, he's in it for like 20 seconds. Like, he got the idea after doing the boot camp for the film, and like all the other actors were like, "Yeah, we're in the shit now. Like, we've been through war. Like, we know what it's like."
Yeah. And he had friends that were also in like Platoon and whatnot, and he thought the concept of like of actors thinking they were really in war to train for the film was funny, and like props to him. So the fact that he had that idea for so many years and like it really came to fruition so well.
Yeah, I remember he is in Empire of the Sun.
Yeah, very briefly. Yeah. That's a good film. That's a very big voice, correct? That's a very underrated Spielberg film.
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was that great, but
it's middle, but it's good.
Speaking of your boy Tom Cruise.
Yes. Let's talk about Les Grossman.
I want to address Les Grossman.
Well, also what a great name, Grossman. That's like such a
Harvey Weinstein much?
Yeah.
You think so?
100%. 100%. Even his weight and demeanor is Weinstein from that time. He's 100% based on the biggest movie.
But the constant
of that
screaming, I never heard about Weinstein being like a screamer and like yelling at people.
I feel like the screaming was more like characterization.
but like his physical presence and like, that type of character, it's meant to be Weinstein.
Yeah, because he's also really slimy the whole movie.
Yeah.
He's like, you
and
can have a G5, or you can have like your guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that he puts on a Flo Rida song. It's like, you can get that money, that G5 turns it off. It's like, or you can grow a conscience. It's like, so good. No, Tom Cruise is really a standout in this film.
I don't think he's as good as what you guys are saying. Simply like the humor isn't like what a funny character. The humor is, look, it's Tom Cruise doing this character.
I think it starts out that way, but I felt like it was funny because, like, yes, it's so over the top, but also the insults he's screaming I found to be quite funny. My favorite of his is like when he's talking to Steve Coogan, the director, and he's like, "I'm gonna shove my fist so far up your ass. Anytime you have a thought, it has to pass my wedding."
That was good.
I like that's such a funny insult. Right later when he's trying to negotiate with the Viet Cong, it's so funny how like he hangs up. He's like, "Did I do a good job? Like, I don't know if I did okay on that. What do you guys think?" And he's like, it's such a funny, great little detail.
Like, he's yelling at them like, he's like, "Just give me the phone." Takes the phone, doesn't know who it is. You are gonna have to get a United Nations binding resolutions to keep me from pouring hell. And then he like hangs up and he's like, "Can you find out who that was for me, please?" Doesn't care.
But from that side plot of the film, I actually prefer Matthew McConaughey's character. I think he's funnier.
Yeah. I don't think he's funnier.
He's like weird,
but the payoff
insecure.
is better.
He's so insecure about being Ben Stiller's agent, and like he's like, "I have to get the TiVo."
The TiVo.
See, but that's like, I agree only just because I think that it has a better payoff. That TiVo gag where he just shows up out of nowhere and saves him with the TiVo, it just runs off into the woods like nothing happened.
I think the funniest bit is like the whole misunderstanding, thinking that they're his new agents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good bit.
We're a flaming dragon.
I've never heard of your little agency.
Yeah. Please don't take my client.
Also, like on Matthew McConaughey's character, like his name is literally Pecker. Like that's what he calls himself, which I thought like kind of ties into the masculinity thing, because like Pecker just mean like penis full blown.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also,
I think it's a proverbial word for it.
It's interesting. Tom Cruise participated in this movie because this movie is firing shots at like A-level stars, which of course he is. But like, you'd think they're really going hard at like his level of stardom.
In a sense, but I feel like a lot of people who like I think a very similar film to This Is the End, and that's similar to where like those people who are involved have a sense of humor about like their level of fame and stardom, and I feel like he does too.
I just love the aspect that This Is the End, that they're all playing characterizations of themselves. That's brilliant.
I do love that film.
Also, it's got what's his face in it as well. The guy.
Jay Baruchel.
I really like him. He's great.
He's really good in Tropic Thunder. I always forget he's in it, and he was actually like a pretty decent role.
I like him whenever he's also the boy in How to Train Your Dragon.
He's great in those.
Yeah,
he's really underrated. I feel like.
No,
I do like.
He's not in a lot anymore.
No, he's true. I think he took more of a break.
I think he did as well.
He's like a very specific type of character in my opinion. Because like the characters he plays in Tropic Thunder, This Is the End, and $1 Million Baby is all kind of the same person.
He is $1 Million Baby.
He does
like
play
scrawny, like, "Oh hey, can I help you out with this?"
I think you're forgetting his greatest role to date. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, co-starring Nicolas Cage.
Man, I remember when that film came out, I was so excited to see it because I was young and I was like, "Oh, I love National Treasure, same dude and Nicolas Cage are back." And then I saw it and I'm like, "Why did they just do Fantasia in the middle of that film? That sucks."
I watched it a lot growing up. I watched it too many times.
I didn't like that film very much.
I never laid eyes on that movie.
Oh Jesus!
You're missing out, Shoh.
You're missing out, Shoh.
Yeah, big opportunity miss.
Underrated classic.
Yeah, very clearly.
Should be talking about that.
The Citizen Kane of the 21st century.
Oh God, Lord help us. I think the opening of the film works really well, and then I like what I really like about the film as well is that the first and the last scenes, like the way that they're depicting like war and like the action is like actually really good. Like it's competently made and like well made. And I like that how they start the film opening with that. And I love like the obvious making fun of Platoon. And I love this thing that Ben Stiller does with his lips, where like they're flapping around as he's like screaming as he's getting like shot within like the film. It's just so funny the way that they parody that, and like even the vainness of it, of just like, I'm not crying enough, and then like Robert Downey Jr. being like, you got to bring yourself into the scene, man, like I'm working with amateurs here, and just like he thinks he's better than everyone else. Just like the way they set up the dynamics of the characters at the beginning is really, really thoughtful.
The Robert Downey Jr. element of the film, him as Kirk Lazarus, is I mean, we can talk about that now. I feel like that's the, like, let's be honest, it's the best part of the film. A lot of people forget he was nominated for an Oscar for that performance. I have to Google it. I was like, didn't he get nominated for an Oscar for this? Yeah.
And like he's so good because he plays it perfectly, especially later in the film when he's like coming out of like the multiple characters he's like been method of for years.
That is my favorite part when he becomes Australian again.
When he goes from black to Irish back to Southern, and then back to like Australian, like goes
through all of them.
It's really great. And like the two scenes I laugh the hardest at in the film are with him. The first is when like Brandon T. Jackson's character uses the N-word against Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and then Robert Downey Jr. like pulls him in real time. He goes, he hugs him. He's like, the word has kept us down for 400 years. It's just like, it's so funny, the delivery, the
guy was like, the guy was like, what do you mean you people? And then Brandon T. Jackson was like, what do you mean you people?
What do you mean you people?
What do you mean you people? Yeah.
It's so good.
Or like when he's talking about like making food and stuff, and he's like, we're gonna get some crab apple. And Brandon T. Jackson comes up, he's like, that's how we all talk, huh? He's like, I get excited about my foods, man.
Yeah.
Like there's like that layers.
But what's so great about it,
I wish they'd actually gone harder with that, between the beef between Brandon T. Jackson and...
Oh, really? I felt like that was like relevant throughout.
I could have had one more bit of that, and I would have been more satisfied.
Because they did have that at the end when they're looking at the village, and Robert Downey Jr. asks Brandon T. Jackson's character, like, hey, are we cool, this and that? And they have like a pretty frank conversation about like what Robert Downey Jr. is doing within the film. So like I think the film's great for that, because it makes fun of people who go that far into like method acting.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, right. That they do
Jared
that.
Leto.
And then like they also Jared Leto. But then they actually really talk about like the serious implications of what that is like. And I like that the film has the maturity to do that.
Kirk Lazarus would send condoms to his co-stars.
Yeah.
Jared Leto style.
I remember when Jared Leto did that. What a freak he is.
Not good.
Yeah. Also a cult leader.
Yes, he is, technically. God, what an idiot. Shoh, what else did you want to like highlight? You were talking about the toxic masculinity within the film.
I mean, we can talk about that, but I was thinking like one of the things I really like about like the film structure is how like the opening like mirror, or how the ending mirrors the opening of the movie they're making. Like that whole because and there's also like a lot of foreshadowing, I think, like with Ben Stiller's character, like Jack Black in the opening movie that they're making is like, don't count him out, he's got luck tattooed to his ass. And like all that, like Ben Stiller's character throughout that whole film is just always this close to death but never dies. First like action scene where he's like going out and like shooting against that with just blanks and like just doesn't get hit, and like all the torture he goes through in the drug camp, he keeps going like, Damien, cut dunking him under the water. He's like, cut. Oh, I thought that was really good.
The voice of Jack Black's character when he's in the movie is so perfect. Fucking funny. Well, I got knocked tattooed to his ass.
Yeah, he got knocked tattooed. You calling that Snape a nape? You get us some boom boom now. Yeah, he's like trying to get like the guy's bullet out of his head, and he's like blood everywhere.
I love that. Yeah, I love how over exaggerated the blood is, because it's getting perfect, like, making fun of Vietnam War films, because it starts like slow and then it just becomes like a fountain. It's just so much blood.
Or like Jay Burchell's character just gets like stabbed and like
it's like blood everywhere.
I can put it back in. Yeah, what is this? Oh, that's so good. good.
Also, relating to
such a
body
good opening.
innards, the part where Ben Stiller picks up the director's head.
Oh, I was about to talk about that. Yeah, that's great because it's so funny. But what's so like meta about it is like it's like it's all like light shows and like makeup people and like
smoke and mirrors.
It's clever because in the film world that character's dead, but his like that decapitated head doesn't look anything like Steve Coogan.
No.
So like it's also like a subversive joke in that sense. Like that is completely fake, but to these characters it's real, but they don't even know that. So like the layers of that is like so brilliant. So
sure, I didn't think about that.
The design of that head is disgusting when you start to lick the innards.
So gross. Yeah. Ben Stiller's like, see, it's just corn syrup, guys. Very
flavored.
blood favored corn syrup.
Just kicks the head afterwards. David Beckham.
And then you've got the Viet Cong on the sidelines being like, these men fear not death.
He's got the stick on the head on the gun.
Just the dumb luck. He just throws the grenade, and Danny McBride happens to like detonate
big ass titties. No,
so
that's
great.
another thing about that movie. I feel like every single line of dialogue is like a joke. Every single line, it's like so jam packed with.
I heard it compared to like an Edgar Wright film in that sense.
Yeah,
like everything is so much precise.
To be honest, I like this better than any of Edgar Wright's comedies.
Whoa!
I do.
I disagree.
I feel like this one is a much more Americanized version of Edgar Wright's films, but like in a good way. I still think it's in a good way.
I feel like it's smarter though, because like this film's a satire of so many different things and sticks the landing on all of them.
Are you telling me
Edgar Wright's films?
Hot Fuzz satirizes action films? That's the whole point.
It satirizes action films,
horror films,
zombie films, and World's End satirizes
alien invasion,
science fiction films, right? Yeah. But Tropic Thunder satirizes, not just Hollywood. It satirizes Vietnam War films. It satirizes people's issues with drugs. I mean, the whole Jack Black arc. Like my favorite bit of that, I'm not gonna lie, is when he like bites into the bat to get some of the heroin back. There's blood all over his face. It's just so ridiculous. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, he like shoves the heroin into the two guys. Like, quick, we have to go. We only have 16 hours before they wake up.
Also, when Jay Baruchel's like, "Oh, I love jelly beans. Can I have some jelly beans?" He's like, "You can't have none of my jelly beans."
It's such a great bit how they really make fun of that. And again, I mean, Moses, you talked about how Tom Cruise, you're surprised that he's in the film because they're making fun of his level of stardom and like his melodrama behind the scenes sometimes. But Jack Black is directly making fun of Robert Downey Jr.'s drug issues and his whole like trajectory.
I didn't even think of that.
The way they tackle that is like he has a drug problem, and then even the way he tries to like get himself out of it is very reminiscent of what Robert Downey Jr. was going through.
I didn't even think of that.
The levels of satire and how it even relates to the actors within the film is brilliant. It's so well done.
He's also partly satirizing his career because Jack Black is not that much above it doing the grumps or the farts. He's not above that really.
Right.
He's done movies like that before, so he's not above that or anything. So he's also making fun of himself very blatantly.
Yeah.
My favorite YouTuber, Jack Black.
It was so strange to see him with like that short haircut because I'm used to with him the long hair and like the scruffy beard.
Yeah, true.
I've always really liked Jack Black, and I liked and this is I feel like one of those few films where he really actually gets an opportunity to shine be properly funny.
He was in the Citizen Kane of the 21st century, Kung Fu Panda 2.
See, Kung Fu Panda is really good, but man, School of Rock's just a classic. What a film!
I have not seen it.
You're a disappointment to me and Jeff, and you know which Jeff I'm talking about.
Ryan, you heard that one of the kids from School of Rock got arrested like stealing a guitar?
I did. Irony.
That rock
irony.
life.
That rock life.
Jack Black told me to do it. Okay. God.
I was just trying to rock on.
Life imitates art.
Yes, it does. So the stuff with Jack Black and the drug recovery he goes on. I mean, even the bit where he's tied to the tree is really funny. Yeah, and like how they handle that's really good. So like that whole arc for him, I feel like is very relevant to like Hollywood drug issues and whatnot.
Yeah,
so.
true. Also, kind of going back on like the whole Vietnam War thing, I feel like Nick Nolte's character plays that really well because he's like the living embodiment of just the Vietnam War like image. Because he didn't even like serve in the army, and like I thought a really good like hint of that is when Danny McBride asked him like, "Oh, you got a cool like a side piece gun, like what's it called?" And he doesn't even give him a name for the gun because I don't think he knows it. He just says some dramatic, I don't know what it's called. I just know the sound it makes when it takes another man's life.
That's exactly
okay.
That's like, perfect. That's such a good point. Yeah, and like the way they break that down.
And like everyone like is listening to him when like in the conference room when they're having like the crisis meeting, and he's not even a vet. He's just in the corner, but people still like take him seriously.
Well, even Tom Cruise perfectly undercuts. He's like, "Sir, you're an American hero." No, shut the fuck up. It's like it's perfect.
You guys read The Things They Carried in high school, right?
Yeah, we did.
He's the Michael O'Brien of the films.
Yeah, he is
in a weird way.
That's such a good point. But I love how it's fake. Like that all like the whole story was fake, and the way like the whole bit with his hands throughout the film, especially the third act, everyone keeps asking him like, "What, you have hands now?" And Jack Black has a great line of like, "Oh, you grew hands." It's like, so dumb. But I love that because like you were saying, Shoh, I think it does really undercut not just like Vietnam War films, but like the idea of the Vietnam War, which is like it was not what you thought it was. Like it was a lot more superficial than what like was presented to people. And what's great is that the Vietnam War films tried to present like some form of complexity, and this film's saying no, actually that war was superficial. We're going to present you a scenario where the representation of it is also superficial in that sense. I think his character in that sense is a really interesting, like the way they handle that's great, and the way he played like Nick Nolte and Danny McBride is like as like a buddy duo in certain scenes. It's like it's perfect. Like what? Yeah. Like you would never imagine that.
I love
they play off each other so well.
I really like Danny McBride's like throwaway lines like, "I almost blinded Jamie Lee Curtis on Friday."
Yeah.
This will ruin me.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to switch to catering.
Yes, that's probably my favorite line of his. Danny McBride's great in it.
For me, when he's like, I lost an appendage too in the line of duty, and he's just like missing a pinky, and he's like, I missed Daisy first gig, and he's just like,
man. He's great, and they play off each other really, really well. Definitely.
I think the film also, to like a certain degree, has almost like a Apocalypse Now type of narrative, where it's like a group of men who's like start off their perceptions of normal, and then go into the jungle, and then start maybe like losing their sanity. I thought that was like an interesting parallel.
But even losing your sanity, Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah, they made a Heart of Darkness documentary based on the film. I haven't seen it, but I found that out yesterday.
There's a documentary about the documentary of making Apocalypse Now.
No, there's a documentary of the documentary
about the making
of Tropic Thunder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I may have heard of this. Maybe.
I haven't seen it, but I saw it was on Letterboxd because I was logging the film yesterday.
Oh, shit.
And I saw that there was an option for like, let me look up what it's called. It was a spin-off title of Heart of Darkness. But yeah, there's a documentary. I don't know if it's any good, but there's a documentary on this film that's meant to be like Heart of Darkness, Tropic Thunder.
That's interesting.
It's called Reign of Madness.
I'd love to see that.
It's 30 minutes long, and it's called Reign of Madness.
Oh my god!
Shit, wow.
Reign of Madness.
I'd watch that.
I think I saw a scene or like an excerpt of that where it's like Robert Downey Jr.'s like still in character, and I saw this like years ago. It almost feels like a dream, but it was like him in a bathtub writing like on himself with pen, and he's like making a map, and he's like still in Vietnam. But like I think Robert Downey Jr. is like still in character as Kirk Lazarus, but it's as if the documentary of Tropic Thunder, like it's still got like an extra layer of narrative. It was funny.
Speaking of going insane, one of my favorite bits is also when Ben Stiller's off in the woods going crazy and he kills the panda.
The panda bit's
and he calls Matthew McConaughey and he's like,
so funny.
I killed a panda. He's like, Amanda? That's probably not even her real name.
but even the way that scene's cut together is really well done, because you think it's an actual serious threat, and then they cut to like a clearly fake dead panda, and then Ben Stiller's reaction is just so priceless. So good. That's a great bit. I mean, they and the thing is, they do what the film does so well is there's so much like good setup. Like earlier in the film, when there's that just random ad of like him with that panda, you think nothing of it, but it pays off so well. And just like, the film's really well structured in that sense, definitely. Yeah. I wanted to talk about a bit about, there's one, okay, like, let's be honest. And before we talk about it, like, obviously this is the language that the film uses. So we're not supporting the use of this word, but like, the most iconic scene of the film is obviously the never go full retard scene. And like I think that's definitely the most iconic of the film.
Is that the most iconic bit of the film? I didn't even know.
Definitely, because people quote that memes. All the time. Those memes. What's actually really great is, and this is the bit of trivia I learned like following in the film, and actually I think it makes the film better, is that he's listening like Forrest Gump, he won an Oscar, didn't go full retard. Dustin Hoffman didn't go full retard. And then he mentions a film with Peter Sellers.
Is it real?
But Peter Sellers didn't actually win an Oscar. He only won a Golden Globe. So it kind of defeats the argument that Downey Jr. is making, but that actually fits more in line with the film, because it shows he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And it's just all conjecture, because he thinks he's the shit and he's the all-knowing God about method acting, that he's not even fully informed. And like I just Amazon said like in the trivia, it was like goof, like it was unintentional, and Ben Stiller mentions that in the commentary. But even unintentional, I think that's it's even a funnier layer to that scene.
I almost prefer the scene afterwards where he's watching his Simple Jack performance in front of the Viet Cong, and he's like, the subtlety, he's toned down the darkness a little bit, and now he can let the audience relate to his suffering. And he's like breaking down the acting performance, and the relatability to the audience, and I'm like, brilliant.
It's so how he does that
theater analysis.
And he's like, that's just, he says something like, that's just pure theater or pure acting in relation to theater. And then that plays even better to when they find Ben Stiller and he's like, I've got all I need here, and it's really, it's great. Again, it's great satire, because it's like, okay, what do actors do if they're not making films anymore? They go to theater productions where they're performing in front of live audiences. And he's like, all I need now is like the live audience, like, they feed me kind of thing. And it's like, it's like, because again, it's just like a great level of satire, and it plays like, I think the best part about the scene later when he's like, I'm just a dude playing a dude, Skies is another dude, is like Jay Baruchel and Jack Black's reaction to like them trying to be super serious about method acting in this moment is so funny. It just works so well, the level of satire in the film, definitely. But again, that's even the like never go full retard scene. It's funny because it's true, because you think about that and you're like, actually he's kind of making a compelling point. Like that's the weird thing about it. And you can tell how like really flabbergasted Ben Stiller's character, like it's actually making him rethink his career choices. It's just it's just great comedy. It's really well done. I mean, something that you mentioned, Shoh, and like every time we talk about this film, we always bring it up, but like the whole Simple Jack aspect of the film, especially how it plays in later, is like, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Have you guys seen 30 Rock, the sitcom?
No.
The Simple Jack bit plays like a bit in 30 Rock, just that like humor and satire towards the film and TV industry, and it was very reminiscent of something they do in that show, which is done by Tina Fey. It's meant to be SNL.
Right.
And I thought this is very reminiscent of what they do there.
Right. And I think the best part of the Simple Jack thing for me is like when he's actually performing it for the first time, not when Downey Jr. is watching him, because that's also a great bit, like you said, Moses. But like when he's trying to perform for the first time, he insert those like nasty teeth, and then by the end of his performance, like you see a bunch of the Viet Congs like crying and clapping, like truly moved by the performance. It's like, it's so great. Yeah. So well done.
One thing I didn't understand, just like this is a small bit of like movie mistake, but like none of them speak English. Isn't that like the main thing?
Yeah, I thought about that.
So like, they shouldn't be able to understand them, but like whatever, it was just like a little.
I didn't understand that either. I mean, another movie mistake is like towards the end, when like the team like makes the assault on the Viet Congs. Like their guns are still blanks, but like at one point the Viet Congs are like on the ground, like kind of like scared and whatnot. But it's like you have to know those aren't real guns. Like come on.
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
yeah.
that's a small movie mistake, but who cares?
at one point, I thought at one point, it was my second time watching this yesterday. I'd seen it a couple of years ago. I thought the TiVo bit was gonna pay off with the Viet Cong getting the TiVo, and then realizing there's more entertainment out there, and that Simple Jack sucks.
That would have been good, actually.
That would have been really funny.
That would have been
yeah.
a really good bit.
I thought they were gonna be like, wait a minute, there's more out there than this one VHS copy we have of Simple Jack.
Yeah, it's great.
That would have been really funny.
And man, even talking about that big finale, there's two moments that really stand out to me. Which is one when Ben Stiller's got that kid stabbing him in the back, and then he just throws him off the bridge like a rag doll.
Yeah, the kid does like a full like story.
Oh, it's so funny, and then they just cut back to the little kid like totally fine. He was like thrown so far. I have to get my son. You guys go on without me. And he runs and he comes back. He's like, he doesn't want me. He doesn't want me. So that's a great
What does he name his kid? Like Halffoot or some shit?
Something like that. I
like
completely forgot.
It's a joke on him being small.
I thought it was like a reference to Indiana Jones, like shortstop.
Yeah, it was
like
something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
let me look it up. Oh, that's so good though.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. And then the other great bit is like when, like you said, Shoh, when the ending is like mirroring the beginning, and like Ben Stiller's like hurt and whatnot, but then like he's like, I can't feel my legs. And he's like, just in a pool of water. It's like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Half squat.
Yeah. And then when Ben Stiller like actually genuinely starts to cry, Kirk Lazarus just like, now see, that's some good acting right there. Like, you're getting the emotion there. Just like all this shit happening, and he's still like, you know what, you come far as an actor. Well done. It's just like, it's so funny.
He's like so blind
so
to
well.
it.
Yeah, he's so oblivious. It's great.
I really the ending is great when they're just escaping in the helicopter and the TiVo stops the rocket launcher.
Yeah.
It's just so great. It's just the great payoff. Yeah, go ahead, Shoh.
One small detail I really like about that scene is, and this is only I noticed because I've seen the movie like 100 times, but after Matthew McConaughey throws it and he gives him the thumbs up, there's a shot of him running into the jungle, and it is like unproportionately fast.
It's
so quick.
It's
he just
super quick.
Zips in there. It's so natural. I thought that was really funny. No. But like, I think my favorite scene in the film, I think hands down, has to be when Robert Downey Jr. is trying to sneak in Black Jack on the axe and is like pretending to be like a Chinese poppy farmer, rice farmer.
To speak Mandarin.
Of course I know how to speak Mandarin. I did it in this role.
I worked at a textile factory for 7 years in Beijing.
That's definitely a Daniel Day-Lewis thing where it's like, I played
but they might go on.
No, he did a role where like he went undercover as like a someone who makes shoes or some shit for like a while.
Yeah, right? as a cobbler. Yeah. And I mean the great bit about that with Kirk Lazarus is just he mentions that with Neil Armstrong at some point too. He's like, I did this kind of research like preparing for him as well. It's just like he keeps offhandedly knowing all these like these amazing things because of all the work he's prepared for as an actor. It's so well done.
I'm reading the trivia right now, and apparently Keanu Reeves was going to be Tug Speedman at one point.
Ooh.
And Ben Stiller was going to be Rick Peck. Keanu Reeves would work as Tug Speedman. Very well.
Actually, I could see Keanu Reeves as the agent, actually.
Yeah, it was going to be the other way around.
See that better.
Yeah. I think, Ben Stiller really is hit and miss sometimes, but I feel like he really pulled out all the stops for this film. Like, I love the first Zoolander, like, to death. That film is so funny to me. Let's not talk about the second one. But this really is like, when people think back about Ben Stiller, they will remember this film. Written, directed, produced, and starring him. And it's just like, it works on every level. The only thing about the film I'm not 100% behind is that I feel like at times, like, yes, Shoh, I agree that, like, in the scenes where it's funny, there is like consistent lines of like hilarious, like it is hilarious consistently. But I also feel like sometimes the pacing is a bit off, because sometimes the gaps between getting to those scenes is a bit long, because they're trying to lay out some of the serious groundwork for, like, you know, the Viet Congs and the heroin distributing facility that they're at, and some of that stuff.
My one problem with the pacing, with the film, my main problem is the pacing. I think it takes too much time at some points. The first hour is just the whole jungle bit, which is the majority of the film, and then the last.
See, the first hour is what feels faster to me.
Yeah, no, the last hour is good, and then the last 45 minutes, if you're watching the theatrical cut, is Ben Stiller's
at
trapped.
that facility.
And at that facility, and it feels a bit too long, the whole facility bit.
It does a little bit, yeah.
It takes a little bit too much time. Just nearly half the film is set there, and Ben Stiller's character is not moving. There's nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And so it slows down a bit, in my opinion. That was my main takeaway.
Okay. Like, for me, I thought I didn't really find that too much of a problem. Maybe because I watched the director's cut and they might have set it up a bit better. But like for me, that whole ending is like, the payoff almost of what these people have gone through. Where like they think it's a movie, they don't know what's real, and like you know the movie also teases you with like a bit of action, because it is a bit of an action film in a sense.
Oh, at the end, definitely.
So then the ending for me is like almost that cathartic release of like, okay, now there's like actual stakes and there's like actual people they're gonna have to fight. So now this is like now a real action scene, and I thought like I was happy with it. Like maybe it's just because I'm biased. I just think this movie has like no flaws.
I mean, that's that's really my only thing I have an issue with. I think everything else about it is like I agree with you. It is in my top 5 comedies. I'm not sure where, but like this 100% is. And it really does work on every level for me in that sense. Mainly just because to me, comedies, for them to be the best, it doesn't just have to be like, it has to consistently be funny, but it also has to, I feel like, have layers to the comedy, because I feel like good comedies, true comedy, is able to say something with humor. Yeah. And this is one of those films, and I really like, I just think it's so like it works so well on that level, especially rewatching it, because like, you know, as we've gotten older, we've become more aware as, you know, film fans, what Hollywood is like, and, you know, actors and films. So we now have that like background knowledge of all these things that it's parodying. So when I rewatch it, it is one of those rare films, like I feel like I get more out of it every time, and I find it funnier every time, because I get something new each time I go back to it. And like that is so rare for a comedy, and like this is like, that is something I really do admire about the film.
I agree with you.
And the writing.
I agree with you. I before we get into more of what you were just saying, I want to name 2 things I forgot to mention. A couple of lines from Kirk Lazarus that we haven't talked about yet. When he's asked about the script, he says, "I don't read the script. The script reads me."
Yeah, that's perfect. What a perfect line.
And then, "I'm a lead farmer, motherfucker."
Oh, I'm a lead farmer, motherfucker.
So cool.
There's that scene where like when they're trying to make a plan with like to get Tug Speedman out, and he like you can tell that Kirk Lazarus is like losing his mind. Yeah, because he's like yelling at Jay Burchell's character, and he's like, "Spit the chicken shit out, boy!" And then like he smiles and then like frowns again. Like, he's so unstable. Yeah, it was really subtle, but I thought it was funny.
No, I definitely picked up on that as well. I thought that was like part him losing his mind because of where he's at, but also like, again, it blends back into like he's got all these characters in his head from like all those years of like build up and experience and method acting that like it's all like phasing together.
I realized we never even mentioned the whole blackface thing, but I don't think we even need to address it because enough people have talked
because
about
like
it
it's not offensive.
No,
I don't think it's
the
offensive,
reason
because the way the film handles it is not offensive.
It's satirizing Hollywood doing the whole blackface thing. So it's making fun of the problem. It's not part of the problem. It's to me, when I think about it, I think it in terms of, you know, when they were sitting down to write the script, they're like, okay, we want to make fun of method acting. Okay, well, what's the most extreme thing a method actor could do? Change race. Boom. And then they mine that at every opportunity. Scarlett Johansson wishes.
Oh my God.
Sure.
You know, when that film came out, I was like, you know, I don't think it's that much of whitewashing. And then I saw the film, and they whitewash her within the context of the film. Like her old character was Japanese that they then turned into a white woman in the film. And to me, that's so fucked up that the film's even like, oh yeah, we're leaning hard in this whitewashing thing. It's a plot point.
But also, she said I should be able to play a tree if I want to. Did you hear she did that?
God.
I feel like she's really misguided. I think she's such a talented actress, but she needs to be quiet sometimes on that stuff, because she just doesn't. I don't think she really understands what she's saying sometimes. In that
Plus,
context,
I feel like she only did it for the money. It's not like there was much artistic need to play a Japanese anime.
2017 or 2018, whatever that came out.
That was not a good. That's not a good film.
I haven't seen the original Ghost in the Shell either.
I don't like either. I think I think even the original is greatly overrated in my opinion. I remember watching it and being like, I'm bored.
I'm bored.
I've seen some great animes. Like Akira's a great film, and of course anything.
Hentai? What are you talking about?
Well, hold on.
You pervert, get out of here.
We haven't gone there yet.
Yet. All right, so we can
next week on the pod.
We're welcoming Shoh back to talk a little bit about his culture and the true artistry and metaphors of hentai.
Japanese hentai.
His culture.
So, Shoh, how do they get those? How do you get? No, I'm not going to say that. Actually.
Ask away, Ryan. I know everything there is.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Do you know how they do the jiggle effects? It's very scientific. Very methodized.
It'd be so funny if you're like, okay, so see at this point they go from animation to blending CGI for the effect of this and this.
It's the first hentai to do it. Revolutionary.
Speaking of
the Toy Story of hentai.
Speaking of hentai, my mom recently thought hentai and anime were the same thing.
Oh
and
no!
So my sister's boyfriend mentioned he watched anime, and she was like, "What?" She thought he was admitting that he watched hentai. And we had to explain to her what it was.
Imagine you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, hey mom, hey dad, going to school, and your dad's like, yeah, I watched this great hentai last night. And I'm like, man, The Spirited Away, what a great hentai.
Pokemon's my favorite hentai.
Yeah. So, okay, dad.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I love my Americanized hentai like Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Gross. So morbid.
That stuff. Well, so you mentioned before we recorded that you wanted to take down a lot of notes. So take us through what some of the stuff you wanted to bring up.
Okay. Here it's kind of like a mess of notes, but basically all a bunch of the small details that I found in the film that I really liked. For example, with the Al Pacino thing, in the opening when they're doing the scene where the bestseller has to cry, and Al Pacino, Brandon T. Jackson, picks up the phone, and it's an R. Kelly thing, because he's no, I ain't pissed on that girl. I was pissed and she walked by. That's the story. I don't know. I thought that was kind of clever to just add that really specific diss at R. Kelly for no reason. Bill Hader's character. The whole
movie was weird because
the voice he puts on is fantastic.
That's the thing.
His voice is he has a stick up his ass.
He's got that voice, but I was surprised, and I thought, okay, well, 2008, Bill Hader wasn't Bill Hader, but I was surprised they didn't use him more. So it's interesting to go back and watch it. It's kind of weird how underutilized he is, because
he was
amongst all the comedic talent, he's one of the funniest guys there.
He's only a couple years into his SNL career at that point. So makes sense.
But he's really good in it.
I don't know what year he began getting famous,
but he's great as a kiss ass to Tom Cruise, because even at the end when I
couldn't have done it without you. Really? No.
No.
A monkey in a suit could do your job.
And then Bill Hader just takes us oh yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Just
now you're gonna go to all the Oscar parties and say and take all the credit for my work.
Yeah.
Or Tom Cruise is when actors start crying, you pull their pants and you spank their ass. And Bill Hader's you spank
Yeah.
He's like so proud.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get this in a wide shot, right? Like yeah. Like, the
And
whole
also, we
time.
didn't even really mention Steve Coogan's character as the flimsy British theater director who's directing a movie now. Also
Yeah.
fantastic. I love Steve
Again,
Coogan and
that's
things.
also a great satire because like in the 2000s, there's so many instances of like small time filmmakers being brought onto like bigger films and being bullied by producers.
Really?
Well, that still happens now.
Well, think about it. Like
Think of every
like,
other Marvel movie, Ryan.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that because those turn out good. I would mainly say like
those have heavy studio
like
involvement.
Gavin Hood and X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like he made like indie films, and then the studio. It wasn't like Marvel's more creative, like input more than like bullying and like like Josh Trank as well. Like there's so many examples of like young upcoming directors who are brought onto big films, and then studios just like tear them apart. And I even get like that's just a small part of the film, and like it's well used in terms of that satire, and you can see how desperate he is because the beach scene with him and Nick Nolte is really good. Just like how like eager and like how like excited Steve Coogan is by it, and when he gets to there and he's so excited, he's like, I'm gonna film everything. You guys are gonna stop being a bunch of pussies. You're gonna like actually, live in the real fear, and then just undercut that with just getting killed immediately. I remember when I saw that for the first time, I was like, what the fuck? Like, and that works so well because even you're like, wait, was that real? Like that came out of nowhere. What? Like you're like, it takes you a minute and it puts you in the mindset of the characters in that sense. It's great how they do that.
Well, yeah, where he's like, I am Jesus Christ, and the helicopter is gone.
Yeah.
Oh, poof. It just explodes.
They do that so well. So well. What else you got on your notes?
Just another really specific thing. Towards the end, when they're running, like when they're in the truck and they're getting away from the camp, and like they get blown up by a rocket, and like everyone's like scared.
Yeah, Jay Baruchel.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh,
what are you guys jumping out for?"
Yeah, where y'all going? Like Ben Stiller gets up. And he's like, he starts running, and then there's just like this one barrel that's on fire, and for no reason, he like jumps over it.
Yeah,
and, like, running, which I thought was like, really funny.
Yeah, another great detail.
I love the bit at the Oscars at the end. When you've got you see Jennifer Love, what's her name? Is it
Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Yeah, and
and you see them together.
And
the
then
whole Oscars bit's actually really,
and then the boyfriend
really well done. Brandon Jackson,
Lance.
Yeah, I really like that Oscar bit. It's so small, but the way they play it, and it's funny if you notice, Tom Hanks and Sean Penn are actually one of the two like like nominees.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a great little detail.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is credited.
No, Tom Hanks. His performance is like him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Oh,
and Sean Penn has got like sunglasses on, and he kind of looks like Ray Charles a little bit.
No, it's meant to be
same kind of demeanor.
It's meant to be Ray.
Yeah.
God!
It's so that part's brilliant when John Voight loses and you can see he's pissed off.
Yeah, and he's like, damn it.
I like how that undercuts how like normally when they lose and they show people's faces, they're all like clapping, and he's like, "No, fuck you," kind of thing. or even then when you're in Tom Cruise's office and you're seeing the TV broadcast of it, and Tom Cruise and Ben Stiller's not even giving a speech; he's like jumping around stage, like hell yeah, like
yeah, we did it.
Yeah. So good.
It's a shame Brandon T. Jackson doesn't do more stuff, because he's good in this movie.
He's so good in this.
I remember him in the Citizen Kane of the 21st century, Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did he do anything else other than that? That's all I know him from. Just Tropic Thunder and Percy Jackson.
Oh, that's so strange. I completely forgot about
that. Was Percy Jackson and Tropic Thunder the same year? No, there was 2 years apart.
No,
they were 2 years apart.
Yeah, they were a couple years apart for sure.
How did he go from Tropic Thunder to a kid's novel adaptation?
You gotta make money.
Harry Potter. I'll say Wannabe Harry Potter. I loved those books growing up, and apparently they're making a Disney Plus series now, and I'm very excited for that.
I hope so.
Yeah,
that's good. Well,
I say rip off Harry Potter, but I really like those books.
I remember when I was a kid.
I know a lot
the
about Greek
film,
mythology.
Yeah, I do too from those books, to be honest. I remember when that film came out when I was a kid. I was dying to see it. I remember I was like, I'm going to save up money from chores to buy the DVD. I can't wait. And then me and my family went on a trip, and it was on the plane, and I watched it. And I was like, why would I save up money for this? That sucked.
No,
what a waste of
no.
my time.
I bought the
not
DVD
good.
when I was younger, and I also saw Sea of Monsters in theaters, even though I knew it was going to suck. I was 12.
I didn't see the second one.
And I went to
I
see it.
I completely gave up after the
That's
first
a
one.
shame.
Didn't care.
Yeah,
Also,
no,
Alexandra
Total
Daddario's in
garbage.
that one, in both of them.
Yeah.
That's what a weird cast. Also, that kind of killed Logan
Yeah.
Lerman's career. Love him to death, but
Yeah.
the guy
Yeah.
didn't
He's
really
a good
recover.
actor. He's in some really good stuff.
Well, he's great in The Perks of Being a Wallflower. He's fantastic.
I haven't seen it.
Ryan.
I know it's a
I
coming of
haven't
age
either.
film I haven't seen.
Also,
I know.
you missed your boat. That's a perfect movie to watch while you're literally in high school, which is when I saw it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those. It doesn't hold up as well afterwards, but that's what it's.
I should rewatch
There's a
it.
specific time in your life. Watch it for the first time, not rewatch it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, watch it for the first time, yeah. Yeah.
He's also.
Well, Show, is
Noah.
there Oh, I like that film. I like Noah. I'm on the minority of that, but it was a good Darren Aronofsky
What?
film.
I haven't seen it.
Show. So what are like any other like small details you'd like to point out or any notes? Because like you brought up things I've never noticed about.
Yeah.
Like some things I noticed, like for example, Ben Stiller's inability to be in the war movie comes out like many times. Like a really small detail is that the gun and grenade he has are both not from the Vietnam era. Like the gun and the grenade that he throws are both they like were made afterwards. And I don't know if that's like done on purpose because Jay Baruchel and Fats, Jack Black, both have like I can only remember them by their character names. Klandusky, they keep mispronouncing his name.
Yeah.
They both have like accurate guns to the time era they were in, but Ben Stiller doesn't, and I thought that was quite well done. And it's also like when
That's
he's
really
like
smart.
trying to get Robert Downey Jr. to get acting when they first land, he says load and lock, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just lock and load, he goes load and lock.
Load and lock. I never noticed that.
Oh, yeah, he's like,
every time Jack Black says "fats," it's so funny.
Yeah.
The voice he puts on is
Fats. Like my favorite.
I want to watch the Tropic Thunder movie I want to watch the movie they made with those characters. I want to see those characters with those voices.
Yeah. More of those characters.
They're all like borderline not understandable the way they talk. Like when they're walking and he's like, first thing I do when I get the Hanoi is get Brooklyn the Purpose Jerry and the sweet Mamauchi. And then Bennett G. Jackson's like, shit, you probably that Coochie's motherfucker. And it's just like, oh, so dumb.
Super high pitched. Actually, part of the film I did want to talk about that you just remind me of was like the campfire scene before they go rescue Ben Stiller, because that's a perfect parody of the moment in war films when they talk about what they'll do when they'll go back home and like, oh, you got a girl back home waiting for you. And like, they consistently flip that idea on its head for each of the characters there. And like for Jack Black, they're like, oh, what about you? He's like, man, I'll fuck your mother if you just give me some money, like, or give me some heroin right now. And like the whole Brandon T. Jackson thing about
he's literally saying, I'll suck you off right now if you give me money.
Oh, the way he says that, like, the balls, I'll stroke the shaft, off the gravy, please.
No, but also that's
Bring
right.
it on.
That's right when they find out he's gay because he says Lance.
Yeah. It's so great. But even that show, like, that adds to what you're talking about, like the toxic masculinity is like he kind of accidentally outs himself as gay, and he's like, oh, no, I'm not. Like, I'm a man. I'm in war. This and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it really does play up those elements really well. I never thought about the film in that context, but that's a great point.
But like what I think is interesting, like him not wanting to be gay, I think ties in more to his role as like a celebrity rather than like the Vietnam thing. Because like his whole perception is like, you know, hypersexuality, the busted nut bars and like
busted nut bars,
his introduction is just I love the pussy rap. Like that's
And he's like
how he opens
asses.
like he just can't be gay, and I thought that was like a good thing. And like it's almost like
he's not a rapper. He's not an actor. I mean, he's a rap. Is he a rapper? Is that his thing?
Yeah, I think that's what they're like going for.
Yeah, they're making fun of that aspect of.
Musicians being actors.
They have this really good scene in the director's version because it's not the party scene isn't in that one. It's where when Stephen Coogan is trying to get all the actors together, he goes to Al Pacino and he's like, I need to talk to you. And Al Pacino's like, yeah, this is like a cross brand between your Tropic Thunder and the Booty Sweat, right? And the director's like, no, this is just this. And he's like, yeah, we're going to make a music video with the Viet Cong doing little bunny dances. And he's like, yeah, do the seizure, baby, too. And I'm like, yeah, 10 Viet Cong doing that. Like,
I should rewatch the scenes then.
When they're filming the part of the movie, and he brings up, I'm hungry right now for busted nuts.
Yeah. I love that.
Have some Booty Sweat, baby. I picked it up in Hanoi.
yeah, the Hanoi line is great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, this movie, it's not the intention of the film, but now I want to watch more Vietnam War films. So,
in a sense, I do too.
I'm like, maybe I should watch
Tropic
Red Line
Thunder
or Platoon.
parodied this, it parodied that.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen Platoon once, and it's fine. I'll probably never rewatch it. But, like, man, it's like the way they parodied it, and this is so perfect.
It's perfect.
That's so many different, like, levels.
Yeah.
It's not just the way he falls, but also, like, the drug usage in war and, like,
if I say what I'm about to say, I will be kicked off my own podcast, and my university will kick me out of the film program because
you haven't seen Apocalypse Now.
I haven't seen Apocalypse Now.
You should.
I'm sorry.
That film blew my mind when I saw it.
Yeah,
so good.
I was
top
too
3 war
young when
films.
I saw it. True. I was like 13 when I saw it. I was like, yeah, I'll understand this. This will make sense to me if I watch it.
And then there's Marlon Brando being incomprehensible, and you were like,
I feel this.
He's speaking some truth.
I just made the connection between Marlon Brando and Kirk Lazarus. So they were also going for that, I'm sure.
True.
With like being too into it and being above everything else. Also, can we talk about Kirk Lazarus's stunning blue eyes when he takes off the contact lens?
The contact lens.
And he takes off the wig, and he's got that beautiful blonde bleached hair and those blue eyes.
Perfect.
I think I might be nobody.
Yeah.
And he's like crying.
I love that line because it's so dramatic. He like collapses to the floor and like crying and like slowly rips the wig off.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not Neil Armstrong and I'm not Father McCanley. I might be nobody. Back to the Platoon thing. I thought one thing it parodies really well is like the whole concept of putting in tons of famous people into one big budget war drama, and just like, despite even if it's not artistically good, people will still take it seriously because it's a Vietnam War movie and it's got famous people in it.
That's a very good point.
Which I thought was like almost a critique on it.
I love the bit when Kirk Lazarus is still in character, and Brandon T. Jackson is just like making fun of Australian things, like put a shrimp on the barbie.
Like, the crocodile Dundee line is great.
No. It's like
so good.
Tango with the baby.
That really happened. It was a tragic event.
Help you break, kids. That's a national. He's
a national treasure.
Yeah, he's a national treasure. Oh, yeah, it's so good.
It really happened. Yeah.
Yeah, every part of like that character is pitch perfect.
Can you imagine any other actor doing that?
No,
I don't know. To be honest, at this point, no. Just because like he pulled it off so perfectly.
It's a shame.
I don't know.
Robert Downey Jr. has talked about like, I think he said that like you wouldn't be able to do that role today.
No.
But also,
I don't think so.
He didn't mention this. He wouldn't take this role today. I don't think he'd do it.
Well, because he's a big star now, it'd be more of a risk. Versus at the time, I mean, it came out the same year as Iron Man, but so it was
true.
So he wasn't big yet. Still, like that was his comeback year, right? Like again, Moses. So he took 2 big risks that year, and they pulled off like in big ways for him. Like he's probably got the greatest career comeback in Hollywood. I'd say probably ever.
Like the biggest person right now.
He came back and started the world's biggest franchise, and also came back with a classic seminal comedy and got an Oscar nomination for it. It's like,
Dude, that's
what
actually,
what more can you do in a year? Like, man, the 2008 must have been like he must have been so fucking happy that whole year.
True.
Good for him. He's worked hard.
I'm sure he's been
to bring
very
back
happy
some.
since.
Sure.
With all his
Well, I don't know.
hundreds
Not
of
after,
millions.
I don't know after Doolittle. You know,
Oh
that might
God, yeah, true.
that might be different.
He's just
Yeah.
chasing that high with Doolittle.
Yeah.
Just chasing it.
Guys, we can do it again. This can work.
Yeah,
Apparently
just
I
bring
don't.
up more franchises.
Yeah. More CG animals. More CG animals.
Yeah, please. Please.
I think he has a production company of his own now. I hope he does some interesting stuff.
He does a few interesting things.
Like what has he done outside of the MCU? What has he done except Doolittle and The Judge?
The Judge was a fine film. It had a lot of issues, but like it could have. I don't blame him for that. That was more so because he gave a good performance. That was mainly just issues with script and direction versus like Doolittle. It's what accent are you doing, man? What?
They're making another Sherlock Holmes with him.
Oh.
I really like those films actually. I really like both Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes films. The first one's definitely better than the second one, but I think he's really good at both of those.
Spoilers, I guess. I just checked his upcoming projects. He's credited as Tony Stark in Black Widow.
Oh,
okay.
That's.
I mean,
it takes away from Endgame if he has a cameo, but
I hope he doesn't, unless it's like in a video.
Also,
or like a flashback maybe.
He's playing Geppetto.
No, not even in flashback.
Yeah.
He's playing Geppetto in a Ron Howard Pinocchio film.
God, that's gonna be weird.
What?
He's doing all these weird live-action kids films for some reason.
Yeah, because the kids recognize him from Iron Man, so maybe he's like more easily marketable that way.
Yeah, but like, I feel like he's going beneath his level because he's actually like, especially in Endgame, he was really like properly acting, even though that's like a superhero film. Like he has the talent. I just don't know why.
Well, he's been nominated for two Oscars, Chaplin and Tropic Thunder. The Citizen Kane of the 21st century.
I would actually say that for Tropic Thunder.
No, I wouldn't. It's good. I don't know if I'd
for
say
him. For him, yeah, because like the way he performs Kirk Lazarus, it's his
best performance and his best movie of the ones I've seen.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't think it's his best movie. I think it's his best performance.
That's his best performance.
Sorry, I'm putting Endgame slightly above it. But like again, it's can't really compare. They're so different as films.
Sure. What did you think of Endgame?
Okay. Like I
liked
think
Infinity War more from what I remember, right?
I think Infinity War is a better movie as a movie, but Endgame does a good job of tying up the franchise decently enough. I thought the last battle was very weak, like narratively. Like it's just
disagree.
Like, no. Like because for me, it's just like what Thanos is like. Oh, we're gonna have a big fight now, and then Captain America's like assemble and fan service, and then just throw stuff in there.
Yeah,
everyone.
But
like it could, for me, it could have been better timed. Like they're fighting, and then it's like, oh, we're about to lose, and then he's like, assemble, and then you pick up like everything.
That's
again.
what it was. They were like the original three were going to lose. I feel like. Plus, I feel like the ending is earned because that film doesn't really have any action sequences prior to that.
Well,
if you think about
not
it.
true.
It doesn't really. It doesn't.
Well, no big like shooty ones, but they have like hand-to-hand combat and like chase scenes and like
the only the only hand-to-hand combat scene I can think of is Captain America versus Captain America.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But like all the flashbacks and whatnot are actually like time traveling is actually quite like character driven. Thor, Rocket, no action sequence.
True.
Stuff with Nebula and Rhodes, no action. When Chris Evans and Captain America and Tony Stark go back to like the past in like the 60s where he sees his dad, no action in that. Even when they go back to New York, the only bit with action, the rest of it's like spy trying to get like the stones.
True.
So the only action sequence of the film is really that last like 20 minutes. So I feel like it's earned.
I agree with Shoh though that Infinity War works better as a movie, and Endgame is this insane.
I disagree. To me, it's the other way around.
Thing.
I think that Endgame is a better film because it actually has character arcs and development, and Infinity War is more the fan service film because you get action sequence after action sequence of all these characters going against Thanos, and like it's so much fun to watch. But like
you're telling me that's
that has,
more
like,
fan service than the whole Captain America versus Captain America fight where he's like, let's do this I can do this all day, and then at the end, Avengers Assemble. You're telling me Infinity War is more fan service than that?
Avengers Assemble is that's fan service, but again, earned fan service. The I can do this all day thing, I don't count that as fan service, because the line right after that is him being like, shut up. Like, it's
still fun of that. It's still fan service.
It's fan service because they're bringing it. It's not like, well, I mean, it's like a fan nod because they're like, hey, you guys remember how he's always saying that?
Yeah, and then like they're making fun of it.
Like for me, Endgame was like,
Ryan.
Yeah, like I mean, for like Star Wars was fan service.
Whereas but the way you're using fan service is in a derogatory sense.
People lap up Endgame for its fan service, but then are like, oh, Star Wars fan service? How dare they?
It's not earned.
I agree with that 1,000%.
It's not earned.
It's mostly earned, except for the Chewie bit at the end, where I was like, "Come on!" When they handed him the medal.
The Chewie bits.
That was so stupid.
That was stupid. But that's no real. That's not a real criticism of the original Star Wars. It's just a joke people make.
Yeah, and it's like not even like Chewie earned the medal. He just kind of was along for the ride, and then they were like, "Hey, remember this?
How we didn't give him one?" The most pandering moment of that film, and I like Rise of Skywalker fine, but by far the end when she's like, Rey Skywalker, it's like, oh my god, the fans that to me that is not earned fan service. That is like them being like, see, it's all linked together because the main character was still a Skywalker, so
the whole Palpatine
it's like,
thing?
oh my god. That's fan service.
That was fan service.
Came out of nowhere. Bunch of bullshit. Palpatine shouldn't have been in that film.
I felt so bad that, like, for me,
I liked the movie, but the whole I did not want them to bring back Palpatine.
Yeah, I'm like you.
Same.
Yeah,
no,
it's
but
so unnecessary.
I think the movie is fine overall. Yeah. It doesn't touch the brilliance of the Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. Yeah, which Show I'm pretty sure you love that film as well, if I remember correctly.
Last Jedi? I love Last Jedi.
So I remember when that came out, you were really, I thought you were a really big fan of it, because I remember you and I talking like, it's a Star Wars film, but it's also not a Star Wars film, and it works on both levels.
Like, I think, like, I don't know, it's tricky for me. Yeah, I like Last Jedi because, like, as a film, it's, like, original. It's trying to take it in a new direction. But at the same time, it's, like, it's supposed to be a trilogy. And as a second movie, it's not trying to be part of this trilogy.
That's
like what J.J. Abrams was setting up, and then like what J.J. Abrams does at the end again, and then you see that middle thing. It doesn't tie up together.
But that's
because the last film fails to do that.
J.J. Abrams is bad. J.J. Abrams is like Damon Lindelof, who they did Lost together, where he thinks people are only interested in stories if there's mysteries around it, but he never pays off those mysteries ever.
Lindelof does.
Well, he learned to. Lost, he didn't, apparently. I haven't seen the show. So I guess he learned to pay them off. But
they're the defenders of Lost. But I think, to me, Show, I get what you're saying, but I don't even blame it on JJ for the first film, for Force Awakens, because I think before Rise of Skywalker comes out, I think actually it works quite well going from Force Awakens to Last Jedi. But then you watch Rise of Skywalker, and because it doesn't do anything with what was done in The Last Jedi, when you watch that trilogy now, it is very disjointed.
It throws away the thematic pattern that the Last Jedi set up.
Yeah.
Because it's all about forgetting your past and all that shit. And then they're like, let's bring back the past. Let's bring back Palpatine's back. I wonder when
the fact that they redeemed Kylo really pissed me off, because what they did with him in Last Jedi, he to me is my favorite character of the new trilogy. His character development in Last Jedi was superb in that film. And like they just kind of tossed that out the window. Like, I get his turn, like the way they developed it is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I accept it. Well done. But also like, you shouldn't have done that in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like, he felt more motivated. Like, I don't. If his motivations were like, he was motivated. Like, and you can tell, and that for me made him interesting to watch. But it was like, I'm kind of blanking on like what he was motivated to do. If that makes sense. Like, overall throughout the trilogy, what he exactly is trying to accomplish is like very vague. Whereas like Rey for me is such an awful character because she's so boring. Like
they should have made her more flawed in they made her somewhat flawed in The Last Jedi, but they should have made her even more flawed in Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker,
she's not a Mary Sue though. She's not a Mary Sue though. I agree with what you're saying, but she is not a Mary Sue.
I think she is now.
I think she's a very soon.
No, I didn't think so.
By the third one?
By the third one. The full scope of the trilogy, yes. When The Force Awakens came out, no. When Last Jedi, no.
Yeah.
But now where you see the arc goes, she never struggles, and she doesn't really have to learn that much. So and
Last Jedi, she struggles. A lot.
Okay, but where does she fail in that film?
She fails in her entire plan with Kylo at the end of The Last Jedi. She goes to the base.
Yeah, but she still saves all her friends and lifts all those rocks.
Yeah, but so does Empire, even though Han gets captured, he's still alive. But he still saves them.
Barely.
Yeah, but still barely in Last Jedi. But her plan fails. She thinks she can turn Kylo, but she gets captured immediately. She fails to turn him. He turns on her, and it's a whole hullabaloo. And the only reason she survives that encounter is because Holdo drives the ship into Kylo's ship. So no, that's like clear failing, and also she fails with her training on Luke's island.
But she doesn't really.
Yeah, she struggles.
I don't think she fails with that. She struggles with it, but she doesn't fail because when she leaves it, she's totally fine. Like, there's no repercussions of her not completing that training.
And like for me, she doesn't have. Yeah, but she doesn't have like any recurring
Luke loses
flaws.
His arm. Luke loses his hand.
She loses the fight.
Okay, but she doesn't lose anything else beyond the fight.
That doesn't mean you have to just to show that they've. That doesn't mean they have to chop off. But if she lost,
when characters fail
if she lost a limb or something, people would just be like, "Oh, they're just trying to do Empire again."
Okay, but then show the emotional consequences of what it means to her to fail. They don't even show that.
Yeah.
Because she just reconnects with her friends. Is like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are safe. Let's rebuild, the resistance." It's like. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting flawed, but she is not a Mary I'm not putting that on Last Jedi, Moses. You know, I adore that film. I love that film so much. I'm putting it on how they finished out the trilogy. They missed so many opportunities in that last film. I think, even though I do like it, when I watch it, I can't help be like, you didn't need to retread so many ideas.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with it with Force Awakens. You're rebooting it. There's enough new things that balances out a lot of the old stuff. But just go back to it at the end. It's just
I'm just gonna bring out my reasons for the love of Last Jedi is that you start the trilogy with Force Awakens, which fair enough, they retreaded a lot of ground because they had to establish that this is still Star Wars. I'll give it that, but they do retread a lot of ground, too much. Some could argue. Me. And then you've got this movie, The Last Jedi, which has elements of Star Wars, of course, but it mixes it around enough so it feels original still. But then the whole thematic purpose of the film is to forget the past on more than one level. This is about Rey's character giving up on the whole search for her parents, thinking she's bigger than what she actually is, because her parents at this point in the story are drunks. And then but it's also about forgetting the past.
That was a perfect.
Yeah, I know, it was perfect. And then she forgets it's also about forgetting the past, literally, because the last movie was so focused on the previous Star Wars films, and this is trying to move on. So it works on more than one level. And Rian Johnson actually snuck some meta commentary on a popular franchise within a Star Wars film, which they haven't been able to do in a long time.
Yeah.
True.
But I think I do love. I love.
It's fantastic. It's really great.
The casino stuff is a bit goofy at times.
It's fine. It's not as bad as people say.
I don't hate it. Yeah.
It has a killer opening sequence.
Even though I like Last Jedi, it kind of bothers me because it kind of highlights how little creative planning they had into it. Because now I feel like I can't watch the trilogy and be like, oh, now that I watch all these movies together, there's a greater understanding of it all.
Okay, I agree with you.
Very clunky.
But also, there was no plan with the original, and you could argue it's clunky between Empire and Rise of the Return of the Jedi.
I agree with that. That's why I don't think Return of the Jedi holds up as well, because you start that film and Luke's a master, and you miss that whole part. I have to say,
I do love Master Luke in that movie. His outfit
he's great.
Is sick as hell.
He's great, but that's where he should have ended. The last half of the film should be, okay, now I'm a master. But he shows back up to Yoda to be like, I'm ready to keep my training. It's like, what's left to train? You're already a master. Obviously. I do love Return of the Jedi because there's some great parts of that film, but that part
The
always
finale
irked me. Yeah, finale's great. Okay, well let's go. Let's close off and like kind of return back to Tropic Thunder for some closing thoughts today.
What's Tropic
We've had
Thunder?
some great
Ryan?
tangents. Yeah, I thought this was a Star Wars episode, boys.
What?
This is an episode of Percy Jackson.
Yeah, isn't Kirk Lazarus in Star Wars?
Quit podcast. Robert Downey Jr. in Star Wars would be so
that'd be
interesting.
so funny. So just back talking Ray the whole time.
Yeah.
What you said?
Yeah. That's great.
His Finn's role.
Yeah, he does blackface again.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
So
and he's like trying to get with Ray, and he's clearly a lot older. It's like
just you and me, baby.
Yeah.
Put your feet down. You say you and me going on a date.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Shoh, what are your close? Actually, no. We'll end with you, considering your
okay.
Moses, what are your closing thoughts?
Tropic Thunder is pretty great. It's not as good as some people say. I really enjoy it. I think a lot of comedies have taken from it, which has since kind of diminished the effect and originality of the film. Perhaps in my eyes, I imagine seeing this in 2008 would be better than seeing it now. Just because, as I said, so many comedies I think have taken from this film. But overall, it's a really, really solid satire comedy.
Yeah.
It has one of the greatest comedy characters, Kirk Lazarus, one of the great performances. And it's great. I was happy to revisit this because I hadn't seen it in a while.
For me, it's like I said, it's in my top 5 comedies. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant satire. I find something new about it every time. It's a film that I kind of grew up watching as a comedy, which I thought was, it was seminal in that development for me. This and a lot of Adam McKay, Will Ferrell films I really grew up on, which like you could, I kind of cheat because like I group all of their comedies as like one when it comes to, like my top 5 comedies because I love everything Will Ferrell and Adam McKay do together, literally everything. But I love Tropic Thunder because every performance is spot on, even for minor characters. Every character is making fun or parodying something, not just within Hollywood, but an aspect of culture or an aspect of film. It really goes in and fires on all cylinders. And like I said at the beginning, it's amazing that it's as good as it is. And I give it more credit because parts of the film's team aren't great. Yet it still comes out to be something really special. And like, I'm glad we've done this show because I know you love this film and we talk about it a lot. But even then, I like a lot of the small details you've told me has made me admire the film even more so, just because like the small attentions to detail that reinforce like the stupidity of the characters or the satire, or just for it to be really fucking funny. It just it just so works, and it's I'd be really hard pressed to find someone to watch this film and not find it funny.
True. Like, yeah, I guess you kind of touched upon what I was going to say, that like one of the reasons that I think this is like a phenomenal movie because it's like a fantastic comedy that also talks about many different aspects of, Hollywood, masculinity, method acting, people's perceptions towards Vietnam and like war movies in general, but also because like how outlandish the humor can be sometimes. Like it's really just just really violent and gross, but it still carries a lot of nuance about like people and like their insecurities and all that. And I just think it's like it's almost, for me, it's beautifully written with every single line of dialogue being like hilarious. One thing I just want to quickly say is I think Robert Downey Jr. at one point in the movie goes, we Didi Mao, we Didi now, which I thought was like because Didi Mao means like leave, and then Didi Mao and then Didi now. It's like that play on words. And I thought it was like so small, but like still for me just so rewarding. And like you can tell they put a lot of like passion into this film, and it comes out great. All the performances are good. I mean, I love this film to death. It's one of my top 5 films ever for me. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if people have listened to what was will be close to a 2-hour podcast. Is if they haven't seen this film, please do watch it. Just 'cause, like,
Imagine
it really is one
listening
of
to
those.
this episode of us just being like, remember that funny bit, and not having seen the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
But
Just hearing
I feel like
Shoh's impression of Kirk Lazarus.
of Jack Black, Kirk Lazarus, like all these people.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this movie?
It's so great, and I'm really glad we had the opportunity to do this, especially with you, Shoh, because again, like I said, like you've made me love a film I already adore even more so.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me on. It was actually a lot of fun to.
Do you have anything to plug, Shoh? I don't know.
So follow me on Facebook, Instagram. Hit me up. I don't have Twitter, so don't look for me there.
I've never heard someone be like, hit me up on Facebook.
Facebook, yeah, I gotta get that frank count up. Know what I'm saying? Go to shows_Kawauchi, Tiggy Schnoobs, all my social. Catch me there, dog. Watch Quietus on YouTube, please. I need to add revenue. That's about it. That's all I got.
Oh my God, that was a really good short film you guys made in high school. I remember
it was
that.
by far the best in our class. It wasn't even close.
The year after you graduated, I think I texted you when this happened, but there was a film event with a bunch of international schools screening their films, and they screened Quietus.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Event.
I was
nominated.
upset that. I'm upset they didn't tell us that, because I really would have liked to go to my premiere.
The film that won was bullshit. It was, everyone in my class agreed it wasn't good. It was about like cross-dressing, which is like interesting subject matter, but that doesn't mean the film is good. It was poorly made.
We had a couple of that in our class as well, where like certain people got good grades because of subject matter more so than anything else.
Yeah, interesting subject matter can be a really good movie, but it wasn't a good movie. It has the quality of the film was just bad.
Absolutely, I know what you mean.
And that's the one that won, and we were just like,
no.
Yeah. Actually,
Quietus was great.
Actually,
that was fun to write.
There was a critic award and an audience award, and I can't remember. I think maybe the audience voted for the cross-dressing one, but there was a really good like rom-com one that was actually like affected
pretty good,
done really well for a student short film.
Okay,
but Quietus, really good shit.
The best of the best.
One little thing I like to say about Quietus is that like every single scene is like related to him losing one of his senses. I don't know if you picked up on that, but that was like one thing I really specifically did, that all the memories he has are like triggered by him losing one of his senses.
I'm gonna link Quietus in the description of this episode.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Thank you.
You guys did a great job on that.
Thanks, man.
All right, well, next week Moses and I will be discussing Spike Lee's new film
that will
be debuting on Netflix. Yeah, The Five Bloods, which will be debuting on Netflix
a Vietnam
on Friday.
Film. Connection.
Yep, a Vietnam War film.
We're linking all our films. We did I Am Not Your Negro this time, and this week we had Kirk Lazarus.
Oh, true. Yeah, but even like we talked about when we talked about I'm Not Your Negro, like we talked about how like watching that film actually
connected to American History X.
Connected to American History X, and like
Ryan really loved that film, and he saw that movie and was like, I have to shave my head too.
No, that's not why. That's not why.
Raise your shirt, Ryan. Raise your shirt. What are you hiding? What's on your chest?
Guys, I'm just pledging allegiance to the United States of America. That's all.
All right.
About it.
It's just my America.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You actually haven't addressed the fact that you buzzed your hair.
I shaved my head like 2 weeks ago, mainly just because it's
to copy
so hot
me
in London.
Yeah,
I'm sure. It's so hot here in London, and I couldn't get my hair cut, so I just it went off, and I actually think it looks. I think it looks really nice. I'm not gonna lie.
It looks good. It doesn't look terrible.
One of my parents isn't a particular fan of it, but
you kind of remind me of
everyone else I know really likes it.
Minority Report, the girl that can see the future.
Yeah.
Wait, if you just take off your glasses, it kind of probably slips.
I can see that.
We've got precogs. The precogs are here.
I know the future. Oh my God.
My hair, it's growing in all right. It's no longer what we call a buzz cut, but
Nah, mine's still at that stage for sure.
There's a weird thing at the back that stands up, which is why I'm still wearing a baseball cap every episode. It was buzzed unevenly, and I need to fix it.
I did mine at the beginning because mine was very short.
Sorry for that, guys. My internet dropped out, and I left the call, so I had to join back in. We were just in the middle of thanking our dear guest Shoh. Check out his short film Quietus, which I'll try and link in the description.
Thank you,
we were talking about Ryan's white supremacy problem, which we'll address next week. And otherwise,
it's getting hot in here.
Don't take off that shirt. We don't want to see your tattoos.
Gonna be found out on the pod.
I'm airing out my beef with Ryan.
Oh shit! Here we go, boys.
I bullied him into doing I Am Not Your Nigger last week. He was so against it.
Okay. Wait a minute. That was hold on. That was my idea.
Ryan insisted on American History X. That was
his idea.
That was my idea. We were both picking films we hadn't seen before, and that's one of those classics I'd never seen and always wanted to. So
you never seen
it's
it.
Not
you never seen it.
Ryan, I checked your Letterboxd. You've actually logged You've logged American History X 1,000,000 times.
Okay, but
for some reason, as a comedy, what's wrong with you?
Okay, it's only logged twice because I wrote a review after I gave it a rating, so it logged it 2 separate times.
You love.
I don't religiously watch it. I promise.
All right, Ryan.
Ryan, is that a poster of American History X in the background of your video?
Guys, come on.
It is.
Please, I wanted to keep it private.
Is that fan art of Edward Norton as the neo-Nazi?
What's that?
Hentai fan art?
He has Rule 34 of Edward Norton.
No, I just consistently have the basketball scene on loop on my TV.
It relaxes me.
Just like relax. Oh God, that's so funny.
Just listening to it as he's doing homework or whatever.
Just like writer's block for this one essay, and you just hear the super instrumental score and Edward Norton like beating them. You're like, oh yes, clarity.
Look,
Euphoria.
Thanks, discrimination.
Oh my God.
If you listen to that episode on American History X, you know that basketball scene, we talk about it, it's super weird. It glorifies the neo-Nazis a lot. It's very
which makes sense in the context of the film because it's like
it's still
from the perspective of his younger brother. It's still weird. But
and that's why Ryan loves it so much.
He has
classic Ryan. He has every frame of that scene tattooed across his body.
Yeah.
And guys, that's all we have time for today on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Follow us.
The Good, the Bad, and the Kino at gmail.com. We have our Letterboxd account linked in the description. Shoh, do you have Letterboxd?
I actually do have Letterboxd. I got it a few days ago.
I need to follow you. I need to follow you then.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
Send us whatever that is, and we'll also put you in. Yeah, we'll link it in the description.
Sounds good.
What have you been watching recently, Shoh?
So I saw 13th and LA 92.
Which I saw. Also, I saw that this week. LA 92, fantastic. It's on Netflix here. I think it's on Netflix in most places.
It's on Netflix here too.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. Mostly I watched Better Call Saul, and now I'm rewatching Breaking Bad.
Have you watched the new season? I haven't watched the new season of Better Call Saul yet.
Yeah, I've seen the new season.
Is it good?
Yeah. I hear it's very good.
I should watch it. Okay. I do. I rewatched Breaking Bad.
I'm loving Breaking Bad.
Some of the best conversations Shoh and I have ever had are about Breaking Bad. I'm telling you, man, my theory about Fly, that show, that is the turning point of that show, is that episode. There's Breaking Bad before Fly, and there's Breaking Bad after.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind when I watch it.
Didn't we talk about Fly last week on the pod?
No, not last week.
It might have been off the pod, actually. Because
we've
talked about Fly recently.
To anyone who watches Breaking Bad, I mention that because that episode I think is exactly halfway through the entire series, and that's the point where Walt becomes so much more amoral than he ever was. So definitely pick watch out for that show, or anybody else who's watching that show. It definitely that's the point. It all turns on its head. But Shoh, thank you so much for coming on today, man. This is definitely one of our best episodes.
Yeah, this was first guest.
could
Could
not have gone better, and like we'll definitely have you back again sometime soon.
Yes, please. That'll be very fun.
Yeah, we're so pleased.
I'd like to mention one more thing before you go off. When I mentioned that I met Shoh through Into the Woods. One of my fondest memories of Shoh is at the after party of Into the Woods. I don't think you remember any of that.
Maybe I remember bits and pieces of that night.
I remember.
Why wouldn't he remember it?
saying,
He was underage, couldn't have done anything at the time.
I think he mentioned celery is the banana of fruit. That's
I remember this.
Me and my friends.
What?
Yeah, that's a quote from Shoh that me and my friends cherish. We showed up at the party, and he was. I'm not going to say what he was.
I was excited. I was excited to be there.
Yeah, the thrill of Into the Woods was so good. And we show up at the party like quickly. We're not late or anything, and he's already there. Yeah. And we just walk over to a table, and he's like, "Celery is the banana of fruit." Some shit like that.
Makes sense. I remember this because I was drinking a drink that was like banana flavored, and I was like, I hate this like celery.
Yep.
And I was like, because I hate celery and banana. So celery is the banana of fruit. Big boy IQ. Why do you let me drink?
What you didn't drink? You would drink nice Coca-Cola.
Banana flavored Coca-Cola. Yes. Not respectable.
I'm just trying to think what alcoholic drink is banana flavored and why in good God's name you would ever drink that.
It was a type of wine, I think.
Wine's gross enough as it is.
No, it wasn't wine. Who knows? I mean, it was just there. It was there, man.
It was there.
I actually have a memory at that party as well because I also had a bit too much Coca-Cola, and I went over to the future upper school president of our high school when you guys graduated that year. You know who it is.
Yeah.
And
I guess name drop.
And he had just broken up with his girlfriend at the time, and I walked over to him and I was like, and his ex-girlfriend was in my year, and I was like, "Your ex-girlfriend is such a bitch." So this was this guy a year older than me who I don't know that well. I remember that. I just remember that. That was an event at that point.
Stick it to the man.
Yeah.
Stick it to the man.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Wow.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to mention is the celery thing because that's iconic Show.
That is vintage Show.
That's
vintage Show.
Such a Show comment as well.
16, yeah. Yeah.
Such a long time ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, everyone.
Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you for having me on.
Stay Kino,
thank
guys.
you for coming on, Show. Yeah, everyone, stay Kino. Get out there, watch Tropic Thunder, but also we've all been watching a lot of films that, are enlightening to what's kind of going on in the world. And I think I'd speak for all of us in that, keep doing that and, educate yourself more so. I'll be watching LA 92 this week for sure.
Yeah,
when they see us, great miniseries. Everyone watch that. Everybody has to watch
I shall then.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Keep it Kino, everybody. Bye-bye.
Keep it Kino.
I like that. Yeah.
Keep it Kino.
Yeah.
Keep it Kino. Yeah.
Sure, you're bringing layers to the podcast. Holy shit.
Ooh,
yeah.
He's changing everything, Ryan. I don't like it. He's changing everything.
Keep it Kino with a Kawauchi. See you, boys.
Bye, guys.
A round of applause for that. Yeah.
Bye.